Kevin Delaney here with two little words for your mind and nervous system. And those two little words are be kind. Be kind to your mind and your nervous system. It goes without saying, or it ought to go without saying, that there are many things in our modern world which are not healthy, which are not good for you. Many aspects of modern human life are not only not healthy, they're very unhealthy. And for this reason, we have to exercise really tremendous selectivity. We have to scrutinize things. We have to be careful. We have to be cautious about what we allow into our lives, about what we consume. This may be more obvious when it comes to things like food, but it might not be so obvious when it comes to things like movies, TV shows, video games. I want to read to you an excerpt from a review of a horror movie from the 1970s, and this is a contemporaneous review, so it's not anything recent. This is from the Dallas Times-Herald, and this reviewer writes that this particular movie is without a doubt the most horrific, brutal, nightmarish descent into hell, literally, ever put on screen. And its power can be gauged by the peals of maniacal laughter bursting forth from many of us who survived the movie's first few moments. The film gave me nightmares so severe that I awoke afraid to return to sleep. Its frames forever burned on my consciousness in an indelible way. Wow. Wow. That, my friends, is what's known now, today, as PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. When you're talking about an experience that is burned onto your consciousness in an indelible way and has given you nightmares so severe that you wake up afraid to return to sleep, that's trauma. You have experienced trauma. And you can experience trauma. A traumatic experience can be a real-life experience, or it can be a movie. Your subconscious does not know the difference between a movie and real life. You consciously may understand this is just a movie, so to speak, but your subconscious doesn't know that. All your subconscious knows is that you experience something. This, incidentally, is what allows us to enjoy movies or TV shows or even a video like this right now. What you are seeing and what you're hearing right now is a bunch of ones and zeros. If that's how you experienced it, then it would have no meaning and no value to you. But on some level, you are experiencing this video as if I were right there and I'm talking to you. And it's the same thing with any movie, any TV show, anything that you watch, anything that you consume in that way. Your subconscious cannot make that distinction. Part of the reason for that, of course, is that the subconscious doesn't know what a movie is. The subconscious doesn't know what a motion picture is. For eons, human minds have not had to deal with motion pictures. I like to say about things like this, movies, television shows, motion pictures, even a video like this, these things have no evolutionary precedent. That's a term that I took from the paleo people, people who like to look at what humans have eaten and consumed throughout their history. And then they will sometimes say, there's all these modern foods, supposedly foods like high fructose corn syrup or hydrogenated oils that have never existed all throughout human history. Human bodies have never had to process this kind of material. So in a very real sense, there's no precedent for this kind of food being put into our bodies. It's a totally new kind of thing that suddenly our bodies are confronted with. And I would say the same thing about motion pictures in general. Again, think about it. Through all of human history, you had pictures, but pictures didn't move, and pictures also didn't have sound attached to them. Today, of course, you have movies, you have motion pictures with sound, and you can sit there in the movie theater and you can be moved and affected in any number of ways. You can be filled with delight, you can be filled with joy, you can be filled with sorrow, sadness, you can be horrified, you can be mortified, sickened. But it's just light projected on a screen. right? I mean, it's just a movie, it's just a film. These are actors, this isn't real, but your subconscious doesn't know that, and your subconscious can be affected, and that means too, your subconscious can become traumatized. You can become traumatized by a movie, by a TV show, by something that you see on YouTube, by something that you see on television for 5 seconds. You know, I think one of the worst things that people do is they'll sit in front of the TV with the remote control just flipping through the channels, especially nowadays, especially if you have cable. You don't know what you're going to land on. And I know I'm not the only one who occasionally, even though I don't sit there flipping through TV channels, occasionally will stumble across something and see something that for one reason or another I wish I hadn't. It's not just that it's something I don't like, it's something that disturbs me. And I've had this experience of finding it difficult to get something out of my mind, kind of being haunted by something that I've seen. And again, it can be something real, it can be something totally created, it could be special effects, it could be any number of things. And my point is, this sort of thing, what I'm talking about here with this, what this writer is saying in his review, this is not healthy. What astounds me is that this is otherwise apparently a positive review. Again, I don't really understand what he's saying here about the power of this movie can be gauged by the peals of maniacal laughter bursting forth from many of us who survived the movie's first few moments. So he's talking about it like it's funny, but then he goes on to say that he had nightmares so severe he awoke afraid to return to sleep. Now, just on a basic level, why would you want that? Why do people seek out things that frighten them, that make them afraid like this? I mean, and keep in mind always there's degrees of this. I can understand it, a monster movie, a ghost story or something like that that's kind of spooky or creepy. But this is full-blown PTSD, and people go into therapy for this sort of thing. I don't know about you, but my sleep is very, very important to me. I don't want anything waking me up and making me scared to sleep. What? Afraid to sleep? No, thank you. But then why do people subject themselves to things like this? Why subject your mind and your nervous system to this sort of thing? Other than to say, it's just kind of part of our modern world. Lots of people do it. Lots of people watch, brutal, horrific, nightmarish movies. And my point is, whatever you're doing, whatever you're consuming, you have to put thought into it. You have to exercise selectivity. Ask yourself, is this really good for me? Am I doing this just because it's what people do? Well, everybody does it, right? That's a lousy reason to do something. When it comes to your mind and your nervous system, be kind. Be kind to your mind and your nervous system. Your mind and nervous system is delicate. It's fragile. It can be hurt. Trauma is a very real thing. And keep in mind too, there are always degrees of this. Somebody can be severely traumatized. He uses the word severe. He talks about severe nightmares. You're not necessarily going to be severely traumatized by something, but something can be mildly traumatizing, especially too, I think, when we experience a lot of kind of the same sort of thing over and over and over again. It's a very real thing, becoming desensitized. That's an absolutely real psychological phenomenon. And sometimes, incidentally, it's a good thing. Sometimes you want to be desensitized. For instance, a person might say, I'm overly sensitive to criticism. A person can undergo a process whereby they actually become a bit more, not totally, but a bit more desensitized to something. It's a very real thing. I remember Sylvester Stallone in an interview many years ago, I think it was after one of the Rambo movies came out, he was asked about violence in movies, and I'll never forget what he said. I'll have to find this video if it still exists out there somewhere. I'll never forget, in his great voice, he said, I'm going to get a lot of crap for what I'm about to say, but he said, I think it does desensitize. And he's right, it does. Watching horrific violence, especially over and over and over again, it can traumatize, it can also desensitize. And we have to be kind to ourselves. We don't want to traumatize ourselves. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want fear to to be part of our lives. We want to banish fear as much as possible. That's kind of the interesting paradox about this, is that people will pay money to have this kind of experience. And yet, if you work with people and you know what problems people have, and you know the tremendous issue that fear is in so many people's lives, you'd wonder, why would anybody ever put themselves in a position where they are going to experience this kind of fear? Why? What purpose does it serve? How does it benefit you? How does it serve you? Those are just a few thoughts that I have, but my main message for you is, when it comes to your mind and nervous system, be kind, be good to yourself, be a friend to yourself. You can leave a comment, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you later.